Forsey and I'm the Learning Rooms Coordinator, and today we're launching Learning Rooms and letting teachers know about the opportunities to transform their learning environments through free modules available through Learning Rooms.
Good morning everybody. Can everyone hear me? Well, first of all, thank you very much for coming. Who am I? My name is Murray Hudson and I'm the Managing Director of Grapnels. And what I'd like to tell everyone a little bit about today is about our new Learning Rooms initiative, which we are launching today with Findel. Who are Grapnels and who are Findel, to start with? Grapnels is a very long-term, long-ranging company specialising in school storage, and we've been doing it since the 1970s. People always say to me, who is Mr. Grapnels? What does Grapnels mean? Well, Grapnels is actually my father's name and my two uncles' names, which is Graham, Neville and Trevor. And my grandfather decided that he was going to take those three names, squidge them together and created Grapnels. There is no Mr. Grapnels. I'm Murray Hudson, it's the Hudson family. But Grapnels is now known all over the world as the specialist in school storage. Who are Findel? You will all know who Findel are. They are obviously one of the largest, or if not the largest, school supplier in the country. And we have Tony here, and he'll be explaining more about Findel in a minute. So what is Learning Rooms? What are we talking about here? What are we doing? What we're trying to do is we're looking at the school environment. We're saying every school has got a classroom, but they're all different. Some are Victorian, some are brand new, some were built last year, some were built 20 years ago. But the space inside that room is where the teaching happens. And the environment and how it looks, how it works, how the teachers interact with that environment is hugely important, and we think completely overlooked. Teachers do not, when they do their training, are not told about how to organise their classroom, how the tables should be laid out, how the chairs should work. It's all about the teaching, but the environment is hugely important. So our initiative is about looking at that environment and making it work for the teachers and the pupils as well. So what we've done is we've teamed up with Findel, who are the largest supplier. They have every table and chair and combination that you could possibly imagine, and we're bringing it together in a project which makes those tables make sense. Everyone knows what a table looks like, but what does it do? How can you rearrange it? How can you make it better? Findel are experts at that. We're obviously experts at storage as well. So we've brought some experts who know everything there is to know about teaching. We have Catherine Forsey here, who is a specialist in outdoor learning. We have Gareth here, who is, again, an expert in classrooms and how they're managed. To tell you a little bit about Gareth, I had a drink with him last night. He worked for 4 years in the Cayman Islands. He was there when there was a hurricane that quite literally wiped the Cayman Islands off the map. And he was told by the government that he had to have all of those schools up and running in days, and they were all underwater. So he had to use every classroom, town hall, building, office to actually start up an education system from scratch when it was completely flattened. So that's Gareth. So thank you very much, and I'm now going to introduce you to Tony, who will talk to you a little bit about Findel. There you go, sir.
Thank you, Murray. Good morning, everybody. As Murray said, I'm the Managing Director of Findel Education. When my team and I met with Grapnels last year to discuss the Learning Rooms initiative, we were all very enthusiastic about working together for the common good of learning. The potential for helping teachers and pupils to move education to the next level is a goal that we all share. And I was delighted also how passionately my staff embraced the whole philosophy of Learning Rooms and how it's been carefully constructed to deliver what it promises. Others have attempted similar ventures and their efforts are to be applauded. But perhaps a lack of joined-up thinking, as some have commented, halted any real progress that might have been achieved. But now, between Findel Education and Grapnels, we have the right mix of knowledge, experience and resources to make it work. And we're committed to working together toward the important goal of improving education standards in this country. So, where does Findel Education fit into the Learning Rooms philosophy? As you may know, we're the biggest privately owned educational resources supplier and have a respected name in education, supplying much of the furniture and other resources to the UK's schools. It will be our responsibility, through a separate special Learning Rooms section in our GLS catalogue and on the web, to work with the Learning Rooms panel of experts to select the most appropriate tables, chairs and storage units, learning walls and other key classroom items. We want to showcase products that are ergonomically designed to maximise the child's attention and concentration span and help them to form good socialising skills through these work areas. Key to this is the need to construct positive learning spaces through the imaginative use of furniture, as opposed to the outdated setting of row upon row of desks that's often counterproductive to learning. No other education resources supplier has ever been quite as passionate and committed as Findel to something this vital in the advancement of education. This is big. It's a major part of our strategic plan to help education standards improve. My team and I are totally committed to making this happen. So thank you for listening to Murray and me. We both share the same vision about the Learning Rooms initiative, and I hope that by the end of this morning's presentations, you'll find that you want to share in this vision with us too. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce you to our first panel expert, who is also one of the UK's leading outdoor education experts. I'm delighted to welcome our Learning Rooms coordinator, Dr. Catherine Forsey.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Catherine Forsey, and I'm the Learning Rooms coordinator. We're here to introduce Learning Rooms, which is a free resource to help you create better teaching and learning spaces in your classrooms and schools. We know that teaching strategies are evolving. The curriculum is changing all of the time, and technology is becoming fully integrated, and pupils are learning in real different ways. But our teaching spaces, our classrooms, are they keeping up? Every aspect of the classroom environment should enhance learning opportunities for pupils, but too often there's outdated furniture, cluttered spaces, or new rooms that are designed without teachers in the lead, and that's created a classroom that's far from an optimum environment for learning. The Learning Rooms vision supports teachers, school leaders, and it helps them in the planning and furnishing of spaces with only the furniture and equipment they actually need. And that helps maximise concentration, enhancing organisation, and it fosters those excellent learning outcomes that you're all striving for. So we know that every pupil and every teacher and every school is unique. So we're committed into supporting you in the creation of learning spaces that meet your unique needs. So whether you are looking at a new space, refurbishing an existing one, we'll help you equip your rooms and give you the information you need to make the right choices for your pupils. That's the philosophy behind Learning Rooms. It's been created to help you achieve the best learning outcomes for your pupils. So I'm able now to introduce Gareth, who I would say has flown in from the Cayman Islands just to see you. He's one of our Learning Room panel experts. Gareth's a leading education specialist and independent consultant. He's got more than 30 years experience here in the UK and overseas. He leads school transformation and design, and we're really fortunate that we can bring his expertise to you as teachers through Learning Rooms.
Thanks, Catherine. 30 years makes me sound old, actually. And I don't think coming up from Reading has got quite the cachet of Mauritius or the Cayman Islands. As a head and as a teacher, I know we just get given rooms. When you get a job in a school, you get given a classroom, you get given the furniture, you get given often how it's laid out as well. And sometimes you just keep how it's arranged. But we all know that actually how you arrange classrooms probably does make a difference. And it's an area of increasing research that actually how much impact does a classroom have? We know if it's tidy, it has more impact than if it's messy, and so on and so forth. But some good research happened recently, most recently in September 2012 at the University of Salford, that went through all the parts of a classroom to see what impact it had on teaching and on attainment especially. And they took 37 classrooms in 7 schools. Every classroom was different, every range of pupils was different, they covered the whole parameter. And they worked out that if they analysed all the areas, they included light, sound, temperature, air quality, choice, flexibility, connection, complexity, colour and texture, that they had an impact. And they think that if you take the most important 6 and get them right, colour, choice, connection, complexity, flexibility and light, it made 25% difference in attainment. Now that's huge. As a teacher, as a head, if I could improve performance by 25%, that would be fantastic. And it showed, more importantly, that classrooms were important to students. They wanted moments of individuality. They wanted to be able to identify with their classrooms, especially at primary. They didn't want the corporate image classroom. They didn't want to be in an identical room to everyone else. They wanted, it's about balance. They wanted stimulation, but they wanted organisation as well. They wanted exciting spaces, but they wanted some interest as well. Light is one of the most important factors, daylight. Almost the more daylight you can get, the better. I know there are issues with glare and all the rest of it, and I'll cover that a bit later on. Even if you're relying on artificial light, it had to be good quality artificial light. And if you only had some of the lights on and the light levels were low, it made an impact on attainment. So I'll be looking at those two. Maybe two of the ones you don't quite understand is connection. And connection was about circulation around the room, being able to move easily from zone to zone or from area to area, not squashing past bags, chairs, tables, all the rest of it. Complexity is about actually having a fairly quiet environment in the sense of stuff. So the rooms that are absolutely plastered with everything on the walls, from pre-printed posters to children's work to keywords to objectives, to when it was just sort of chaotic, it actually undermined the attainment of students, which is quite interesting. And I work in a lot of primary schools, I work in a lot of secondary schools. Display is really important in primary, but maybe, and I've been in schools where the head says we have as much display as we can, we absolutely cover everything. Maybe that's too much actually, and maybe it's distracting, especially for some students. So those are the kind of areas we're looking at. Catherine.
So Gareth mentioned some of those challenges that you face in your schools. So have a think about your school, what's going on there. It might be increasing class sizes, it might be permanently expanding your school, it might be refurbishing somewhere that's looking tired, or it might be moving into a brand new building. You've got the opportunity there to create an inspirational new space. Learning rooms, we can help you plan for those changes and seize the opportunity to improve your learning environment at that time of change. So instead of you just ordering the same chairs and tables that you've always used because all your classrooms have them and they match next door, you might just dare to consider something new. Before you make any decisions, you're carefully considering what learning, motivation and achievement looks like and feels like for your pupils. Once you know and you've tested some ideas out with your colleagues and your students, you can explore new layouts, new classroom items, which help you achieve those goals for your pupils. So instead of just replicating that traditional layout where you have your chairs and tables in rows or clusters, how might the desks that you choose offer the chance to shift from individual working to group discussion? Rather than having big tall rows of storage cupboards, how could you use small mobile pedestals so each student has their own or each pair of pupils shares one? That would make it easier for you to change over when you swap subjects. So before you sit yourself down at that same desk in the same location at the corner or at the front of the room, how would a mobile or network tablet free you up to move around your classroom? Do you need a permanent space? Once you start exploring the range of learning and teaching activity that you're going to be doing and how it could take place when you're no longer constrained by heavy and old and fixed furniture, that world of a true learning room will just open up before you.
So one of the key words was about agility, about being able to move your room around easily. And if you've got big rectangular tables, as most classes do, you can still move them in different formations, but it's a bit harder. So where students had more agile furniture that you could, the teacher or the students could move very quickly to do a different format, it was very popular and attainment seemed to rise. Also, having zones around the room was really important, so people went from zone to activity to a different activity. And that really helped improve student attainment, interestingly, rather than always people sitting in the group. And so more and more agile furniture that can stack, furniture can move easily, was really important. But allowing lots of different things to happen, especially with the national curriculum, the new national curriculum, there's lots of constraints on teachers, and often they're so busy concentrating on attainment, setting work, checking progress, that the furniture often gets removed. We know that you want students to be able to work individually, to work in small groups, to present their work, to perform, to read, to do project work in groups, to present. Sometimes it might be a debate or a boardroom. Be able to move stuff rather than just sort of turning around, twisting around, is really, really important. And also allows students to work in different groupings very easily as well, instead of the same four. I've got primary school students now. I know I'm far too old, but I really do have primary school students. And they like the fact that they can move to a variety of different groups and different spaces and work in a different way, rather than sit next to the same person all the time.
So now we know what we're considering. Think about what furniture you have in your classroom. Imagine what's there in terms of your tables, your chairs, your whiteboards, your interactive screens or your displays. Your furniture's there right at the heart of your classroom. But do you really need all of it? Do you use it all of the time? Is your furniture static or is it mobile? Is it all fit for purpose or is it items you've inherited? Does it support the needs of your pupils and does it help you achieve your desired learning outcomes? What's the core learning purpose of your room? Has your room been designed to meet that purpose? And does your room facilitate trading and sharing space? Is your classroom used to its maximum potential when your students are spending all of their time in there? Learning Rooms really encourages you to look again at your furniture, how you lay out your space, and how you can make use and best use of the furniture and space that you have.
So what did furniture impact have? Well, most classrooms had too much furniture. You know, teachers brought in tables to mount a display or whatever, and it never leaves. And chairs seem to breed, they just sort of pop in and arise. And cupboards don't match. And actually, students actually wanted matching furniture. They want high quality furniture. So this sort of mix and match chairs of different colours and odd desks and random tables and whatever it might be was not what they wanted at all. So it was about having something that matched, that looked pretty good. Storage is the critical one, and I'm not just talking about Grapnel trays or whatever. It's what you did with coats, lunch boxes, PE kit, reading bags, all that stuff that in so many classrooms ends up in a heap in a corner. You've got hooks and it all collapses off, or primary students go in and sort of lob it in the general direction of where it should be. Having a good solution for that actually really helped improve the room at all, because you start with chaos, and it's usually by the door, and you come into chaos and it spills over. Ergonomic furniture, yes, important. More and more schools now are concentrating on putting a high quality chair in rather than the cheap, what I call the £7 chair you find in so many schools. Furniture designed to support the back, etc. Some schools going even further. I mean, Tony's sitting on a stool here. It wobbles. It's actually designed to wobble. What you can't do, it's called a hockey. It's a fidget stool. It actually lets you fiddle. It makes you sit properly because you can't slump in it. You can sort of just do that, but your top half doesn't move. So you haven't got kids leaning backwards. You haven't got kids sort of turning around to see what it is. If you're doing project work for an art, it allows you to lean forward, get stuff, and carry on working. They're actually really comfortable. You say to teachers, you've got a stool that wobbles, and they throw their hands up in horror and say, "Don't be daft, I'm not having 30 wobbling kids looking at me." Try it. They're actually really good. But they also do chairs. It's called the sort of active living chair. It actually allows you to move, because children aren't designed to sit still for 5-6 hours. And I've heard other people saying, you know, they've got to sit still and listen. Well, that kind of lets you sit still, that lets you move at the same time. It's interesting. So people are putting a lot of priority on what people are sitting on these days. And, you know, how things are grouped, different types of tables, whether they're cut-out tables, whether they're segment tables. The smaller the table surface, the more you can actually move. If you get big rectangular tables in clumps, there's always a whole area that you don't use in the middle because people go for a standard width instead of a narrow width, or instead of an area of curved tables, they go for something else. And Catherine talked about focal points. More and more schools now are moving away from just the one focal point where the teacher stands or sits. In the primary schools, teachers are all over the room all the time, we know that. But when they want to present something, it goes on the interactive whiteboard at the front. So if you're working at the back of the room with a small group and you want to explain something, you either stop the whole class and go to the front and do it, or you can do it where you are. And more classes are getting rid of a whole wall of display and having areas of display, but also areas of white wall, what you write on wall. So if I'm talking to you there, I can go to the wall and just write on it, and that table can see what they're doing and see what you're doing without disturbing the whole class. If students are working in small groups, they can go and brainstorm what they're doing on the wall. As a teacher, you can see them there because they're stood up, so you can see exactly what's happening. And if you have 2 or 3 of those focal areas around the room, it transforms what's happening. Some schools are going a bit more brave and having write-on furniture, write-on tables. A lot of schools aren't ready for that step, but it will get there, and more schools are having write-on furniture. And more, as Catherine's alluded to already, are going for Apple TV or something like that, where they've got their iPad, they can control what's happening on the board from wherever they are in the room, and they can share what they're doing. If, sir, you're doing a fascinating piece of work, which I'm sure you are, just take a photo of it on my iPad, it's on the wall, everyone can look at it. We don't have to get everyone crowding around, we don't have to move around, etc. So that's happening very fast all over the place. And more importantly is schools having, classrooms having their own kit. The days of the laptop trolley, and we've all got those heavy great things, and if you've got one of 30 you can't move them as they're too heavy. The issue about laptop trolleys is often there's no ownership over them. So you go to a school and the trolley comes for your hour that you want it, and they're not charged, or they don't work, or whatever. So increasingly, as schools can afford it, they're having areas of their own set of iPads or Chromebooks or laptops, whatever it is, and they keep them in the class. So more importantly, students can use them as they need them, rather than waiting for a special moment when they're allowed to have it. And equally, especially in new primary schools, computer labs have gone. The budget doesn't allow for computer labs, and it's about having agile solutions to all those things. Catherine.
Thank you. So moving on from your IT, think about what you have on your classroom walls. When you walk in there, what's up there? Many schools really pride themselves on having pupil work and displaying it on the wall, hanging it up or showcasing it in special cabinets by reception. You might also have your class rules, spelling, keywords, punctuation, times tables and topic-based wall displays. However, there is new research out now around colour, display and environment, and how that's changing and challenging the traditional approaches to displaying materials in the classroom. Because all young people, us as adults, we're bombarded constantly with advertisements and images, school might be the only place where we have that sense of calm. It can be a haven away from meaningless and it becomes negative stimuli. Research is telling us that copious amounts of display items distract pupils, or half of them don't even notice what's up on the walls. So pupils just switch off from that mass of information that's in their environment. Have a think about your classroom displays. Do they change over the course of the year, or do you simply add more stuff to them all the time? Is what's on your walls really relevant to the learning that your pupils are doing on the day that they're doing it? Do your pupils ever see what's on the wall, or is it just a haze of room decoration? So you need to ask yourself as teachers, how effective is your display and that valuable wall space that you have? Could your displays be zoned? Are there key messages that you want to focus on? Is your approach consistent around your whole classroom and then around your whole school? Is it calm? Is it ordered? Have the colours been chosen strategically, or was it just which colour sugar paper happened to be left over? Could a digital display be more effective for you?
So we've talked about rooms being attractive and agile and adaptable and comfortable and durable. They've got to be easy to clean. Interestingly, more and more new schools or new furniture are going for white tables rather than the mock wood, oak, walnut or beech or whatever they are, because actually white is really easy to keep clean because you know instantly if something's on it, so you can spot it straight away. And they're going for that light finish because tables have such a big area in the room. Some people are going for all white, some people are going for colours to give zones, so you know what's happening, but it all matches from the same set. It's got to be ergonomic, everyone's got to be able to see presentation walls easily, it's got to be neat, it's got to be organised, safe and stimulating. Catherine's talked about colour. Research shows that warm colours are good for youngsters because they get sort of a bit hyper and there's lots of action happening. But for learning, cool colours made a difference. If the room was a fairly cool colour, learning was better. Carpet helps. Carpet that matches or tones with the wall is important. That colour coding was important, as with furniture. And in primary schools, you say, well, we've got project work, you've got art, you've got all sorts of things happening. But if you're working in zones, you can have a much bigger percentage of carpet, 60-40, 70-30, something like that. And carpet helped, not just with acoustics, but also with the feel of the room, learning. I've talked about light, and if you're in a new school, then we know that builders have to work very hard to reach daylighting factors. They don't like putting loads of glass in because it's expensive, but they have to put a lot in, including internally, to make sure that every area of the room is bright enough. What happens often is teachers then come along, stick posters all over the glass, especially on the internal walls, and block out half the light. Blinds are better than curtains if they're used properly, if they're controlled properly. We know that. But often blinds come down, stay down, and the lights go on. But we know daylight is better. Some schools are now putting in coloured lights into classrooms so they control red, blue, green, so they can change the environment for a different piece of work. More and more schools are doing that. That's quite interesting. Of course, all this stuff is great, but there's one thing that lets it all down. You can take all those factors together and you can do everything. But if the air quality is wrong, it undermines the whole lot. So if you've got a stuffy room, a smelly room, especially after a wet play, and your rooms can smell, it means you're absolutely smashing the learning going on, because people aren't concentrating, they're hot, they're bothered. So getting the air quality is right. And nearly every school in the survey, in the research over the course of the year, had poor air quality. Nearly every single one, until they fixed it. So we're going to look at all sorts of things during learning rooms. We're looking at the technical parts, we're looking at the creative parts, and we're looking at things like ventilation, acoustics, etc. as part of the Learning Rooms project. So join up. Catherine.
There is one really important learning space that we just haven't touched on yet, and it's a place where I can guarantee you the air quality will be better than in a smelly classroom. It's the outdoors, because learning rooms isn't just about classrooms. Any space can be a learning room. When I introduced Gareth earlier and his experience in classroom transformation, all of the design work that he does, that's unrivaled. My specialist area is outdoor spaces for learning. So learning outside is in my blood. It's how I come to love my subject. I'm a biologist, and it's how I believe that we can really make learning come alive for our pupils. It can be any subject area, and it will make it more engaging, more inspiring, and it will encourage them to take their studies further if you are able to put it in context in an outdoor space. When you get those real-world examples, all the diagrams, all the theories, all the textbooks, they get resonance then, they get meaning, and it comes alive for those pupils. I also really believe that the outdoor learning room should be used regularly throughout the year. Going outdoors shouldn't be reserved for an occasional school trip or a special occasion or for a sports day. It should just be a normal part of every school day at every time of the year. But we're thinking now about a learning room without walls, and that introduces a whole different set of challenges. You have to have careful management of that outdoor learning room, and it becomes even more fundamental if you want to exploit your outdoor space to its fullest educational potential. I know that there are problems with weather and equipment and logistics and clothing and the behaviour of your pupils while you're outside and all the health and safety things to consider, but it doesn't need to put you off. Just as indoor space, you'll do your planning, how you lay out your equipment, how you make use of your space and guide your pupils through the learning. Those things are just as important in an outdoor space, if not more important. We're really fortunate, as outdoor learning folks, that the new National Curriculum for England places really strong emphasis on using the outdoors. With curriculum areas such as seasonal change and plants and habitats, it's impossible to study those fully without going outside. But as teachers, are you ready for that challenge? Do you feel comfortable learning outdoors and making effective use of your outdoor learning room? It can double, if not triple, the size of your learning space if you use it effectively. Well, Learning Rooms is here to support you with this as well, not just inside the classroom. There's going to be a Learning Rooms module dedicated to the outdoors, and there's a special section on the website just for that area. Learning Rooms will help you overcome those barriers and the misconceptions that might surround learning outside the classroom, so then you're best equipped to make best use of that really useful teaching resource.
So the next module from Learning Rooms is about getting started. It's about stripping the room back to absolutely nothing and seeing how can we start planning a room. And it doesn't have to cost money. You've probably got no budget for new furniture. It's about using what you've got and rearranging what you've got and planning and then hoping to move on as you go through. So it's not about money, it's not about cost, it's about back to basics. And we're literally going to go through learning spaces, learning rooms, all the way through, right through to we cover area. So I do hope you'll sign up with Chelsea at the back there or whoever's giving out the forms and help you make a learning room. So thank you very much indeed.
In summary, all the things that we've been looking at whilst we've introduced you to Learning Rooms, it's about changing the way that you look at your classroom and you think about your space, thinking about what learning, achievement and motivation looks like for your pupils. And once you know that, you can start to design your space, your layout, your classrooms to help achieve the most optimum learning, achievement and motivation.